So, good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure and a privilege to be here on behalf of the Woodrow Wilson National Fellowship Foundation. Your work in strengthening school leadership and in better preparing school leaders, thank you, for the challenges they face today resonates really deeply with ours. Through your collective efforts, you've demonstrated the importance of bringing together strong pre-service preparation, mentoring and coaching, and school-based experiences. Integrating these experiences may sound like simple best practice, but as I'm sure all of you know, not everybody involved in principal preparation has taken such a thoughtful, broad, practical approach. For many years now, we as educators have collectively committed ourselves to making sure every child is on a meaningful path to college and career. Many have looked to classroom teachers as the key to student success, and indeed, study after study has shown that the single most important in-school factor for student achievement is the teacher standing in front of the classroom. So we all agree that effective classroom teachers are essential to the process, and that's one of the reasons why the Woodrow Wilson Foundation has been working tirelessly across the nation for the past 10 years. We're working in 5 states and with 28 universities to date to transform teacher preparation, creating better pipelines of effective teachers for high-need schools in particular. Through the Woodrow Wilson Teaching Fellowship, we've partnered with universities and school districts to create new forward-looking teacher preparation programs that are built on a foundation of strong academic content knowledge, rich clinical experience, and then many years of mentoring and support for beginning teachers. So far, the Woodrow Wilson Teaching Fellowship has prepared more than 1,000 STEM teachers for our nation's high-need secondary schools, including a number of schools right here in New Jersey. And yet, this work has also emphasized another point that the research makes clear and which Margarita touched on this morning. As you well know, principals account for at least 25% of a school's total impact on student achievement. Studies conducted by organizations such as ACSD and the Wallace Foundation continue to show how central principals are to school success. Teachers urgently need excellent principals and school administrators supporting them. Today, that means much more than managing a school. Principals may have had a time when their job was filling teacher vacancies, assigning coaching jobs, budgeting for supplies, making sure there were enough overhead projectors to go around. But we all know that those days are long gone. The schools of tomorrow are taking shape now, and they require a new kind of vision. How much learning happens outside the classroom? How do we incorporate new, digital, personal learning approaches with what happens inside the classroom? How do we work effectively with finances, with a range of different revenue streams and possible resources? How do we help provide the environment, technology, physical plant, support staff that truly helps teachers excel? How do we create more meaningful professional development for teachers while also helping them juggle standards and testing requirements? What, in fact, does tomorrow's school look like? Are we ready to find ourselves right in the middle of it? So 5 years ago, after working for some time with teacher preparation, the Woodrow Wilson Foundation asked, how can we help prepare school leaders who can address more effectively the full range of increasingly sophisticated school issues in and beyond the classroom that have a bearing on instructional delivery? How can future principals and administrators best learn not simply to manage, but in fact to lead, to develop and implement their vision of what a school needs to be in this increasingly complex environment? Your collective work, as well as the leadership and support provided by the Department of Education, demonstrates the importance of such questions and the need for answers. Historically, too few of our nation's pre-service programs for school leaders have addressed these questions adequately. Admissions and graduation standards have not been as rigorous as they could be. Coursework has not been as relevant as it could be. Clinical portions of such programs are often weak. And too many times, candidates not even seeking leadership positions have been herded through these programs as the easy route to a master's degree and a salary bump. But despite their shortcomings, these preparation programs have remained in great demand. Why? Because the principal's job, the principal's essential job, grows more and more challenging, and it matters more each year. Yet many principals enter that job and find that they needed more or different preparation for the challenges and opportunities of the modern principalship. They have not learned to support decisions with data. They haven't learned to use evidence to design and lead necessary change. They may have expertise in curriculum design, but lack the leadership training to influence their organization. To be sure, some schools of education have worked hard to keep their school leadership programs innovative and relevant, often in conjunction with partners like those of you in this room. But at the Woodrow Wilson Foundation, based on the research of our president, Arthur Levine, when he was at Teachers College, we began 5 years ago to ask, what if a principal were prepared more like a CEO? What if the challenges facing school leaders were treated less as a question of managing inputs and more as a way of leading outcomes, the way that business schools teach organizational leaders to do? Typically, when this kind of conversation begins, there's a little bit of resistance. We know that schools aren't businesses. Teachers don't like to hear people talk about schools as businesses. We know that schools are in the game to help young people succeed, not to make profits. The point of thinking about schools in a way that reflects best practices in business leadership is not to reduce them to spreadsheets and HR decisions, but rather to begin to acknowledge them as the complex, open systems that they are, shaped and pulled by economic and social forces that the best school leaders are fully conversant with and prepared to grapple with. So, if principals were to be treated more like the heads of complex organizations, like CEOs who earn MBAs, then the Woodrow Wilson Foundation asked, what would such a program look like? How could we blend the best that our education and business schools have to offer? This is the work of the Woodrow Wilson MBA Fellowship in Education Leadership, and the programs it has sparked in Indiana, New Mexico, and Wisconsin thus far. We have more states waiting in the wings to join us. In these 3 states, business schools are selected to work with the WWMBA Fellowship, partnering with school districts to identify and establish the conditions that will help graduates drive sustainable gains in student achievement. Our president likes to say it's a B2B model. The school or district must nominate the promising leader before that person applies to the program. Then the fellow has to identify a practical project in the school as part of the program, and the school must promise to support the fellow's clinical efforts in working on this project, as well as to help identify new leadership opportunities for that person afterwards. Instead of pursuing the traditional NED, our fellows work toward an MBA, studying topics such as leadership, quality management, talent management, data analysis, organizational change, all of which are provided through an education lens. So the case studies focus on education, and the examples that they're given really have education as the context. Through the integration of clinical and academic instruction, the Woodrow Wilson MBA Fellows are drawing on the most innovative thinking in leadership preparation today. All participants also have a 2 to 4 week immersion, for example, in a strong, high-need school domestically, or through a residency at a high-performing school in another country, or in some kind of organization that helps develop necessary expertise in identified areas. And some of these are business partners. Some of the time, there's a complex organizational management that happens in a factory setting that is worth one of our teachers studying. The question of whether the brewery does management best, we'll send them to the brewery to look at how management works in a brewery. I mean, some of those things are translatable across different platforms. This preparation is also supplemented with 3 years of executive coaching once the fellow has assumed the leadership position, the actual job that they get. And they have 1 year after they finish the MBA to find that leadership role in the school. As with the Woodrow Wilson Teaching Fellowship, the Woodrow Wilson MBA Fellowship in Education Leadership does not have a specific curriculum of its own. We aren't the instructors. Rather, we rely on a blend of MBA curriculum and education content that each university creates with its business school, its ed school, and with the local districts in conjunction. Together, however, this collection that we have of Woodrow Wilson MBA programs serves as a set of models for other universities and school leadership programs. They also provide, we think, clear pathways for our institutions of higher education to develop executive education programs and professional development offerings that will eventually help everyone from the aspiring school principal to the more experienced, successful current school leader to further develop his or her skill sets and abilities. Ultimately, we will see these MBA-prepared school leaders serving as true instructional leaders in their communities while closing the achievement gaps and putting every child on a path to success. Preparing to come here today, I reflected on some of the early lessons that our school leader preparation work has offered, lessons that are also embodied in your work. First, a well-prepared principal is essential to school and student achievement. That's one of the earliest lessons that we've learned. Second, working in tandem with effective teachers, principals are an important part of our effort to close the twin achievement gaps. And by that, we at the Woodrow Wilson Foundation mean both the gap between America's best and lowest performing schools and the gap between our nation's top schools and the schools in our international competitors. Since the world is really all one marketplace now, we can't stop once we've achieved highly in this country. We need to look at what we're doing in the world. Third, to ensure a strong pipeline of these well-prepared principals, we as a nation need to improve the quality of our education leadership programs. That means the education offered to prospective education leaders should be integrated clinical and academic instruction that draws on the most innovative thinking available. Fourth, such preparation must be developed in collaboration with school districts to ensure that principals are prepared for leadership needs today, particularly in high-need districts where we do a lot of our work at the foundation, and that they're equipped to drive sustainable gain in student achievement. We really want to see the work matter. And finally, and this one is particularly obvious, principals matter. Their development, their ongoing support must be taken seriously. It must reflect the level of responsibility that they'll take on. There aren't any shortcuts to becoming an effective school leader, and that's why we're really focused on professional coaching. Other key professions develop their leaders through a series of ongoing training processes. You don't learn to be a doctor in one day. You don't learn to fly a plane in one day. You continue to do this work. People continue to work with you. And similarly, we think that principals need ongoing coaching and mentoring. We need to take it seriously. We need to renew their professional understandings. So it's clear that a lot of our work as a community, when we think about school, we really are thinking a lot about the here and now. And that does make sense. We have to deal with the children today. We have to deal with the needs of society today. For most of us, the concern is the current pipeline. How will we ensure that we have enough high-quality teachers? How will we have enough high-quality leaders to lead our schools? But when we look at educator preparation as a whole, one of the great challenges we face is how do we prepare teachers not just for the schools of today, but also for the schools of tomorrow? We need to do more than simply try to fix one or two things that aren't working so well in current school leader preparation programs. Instead, I think we should be looking to develop the leaders who can truly transform public education. Leaders who can both meet the high demands that we're placing on them right now in 2016, but also build the schools and the learning experiences that we know our children will need many years from now. Such a mission can be incredibly daunting. We grapple with this all the time at the foundation, and I think at the same time, all of you in some way through your own work are already demonstrating what's possible and showing the field what can be done. So in that regard, I wanted to tell you just about one more Woodrow Wilson program, which is also working just as you are to try to show the field what can be done. Last year, we announced our plans to create the Woodrow Wilson Academy of Teaching and Learning in collaboration with MIT. The Woodrow Wilson Academy is going to be a graduate school of education for the future, focused solely on identifying, preparing, and supporting the next generation of truly excellent teachers and leaders. This work grew from our efforts with the Woodrow Wilson Teaching Fellowship and the MBA Fellowship in Education Leadership, but where those efforts seek to repair current approaches to teacher preparation, the Woodrow Wilson Academy seeks to reimagine educator preparation. Based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and intended as national in scope, the Academy represents the single largest investment the Woodrow Wilson Foundation has ever made. Instead of credit hours, the Woodrow Wilson Academy will rely on mastery of key competencies for teachers and school leaders. Instead of courses, degree candidates will complete a series of challenges that allow them to learn, do, and demonstrate what they can do. These challenges will blend online and in-person learning and draw on both academic and clinical components, created, again, in partnership with school districts. The work of the Woodrow Wilson Academy will begin with the preparation of STEM teachers That's what we're starting with in the first couple of years, but then we will broaden to encompass other fields of study as well as to encompass school leader preparation. Massachusetts has already given us the approvals, so our students, our prospective Woodrow Wilson teachers, can gain state licensure in math, biology, and chemistry. Our first cohort of degree candidates in these programs is going to begin its work next summer. As the Woodrow Wilson Academy's program for school leaders then evolves, it will be rooted in strong academics, rich clinical work, and coaching. It will be competency-based. It will be embedded in the K-12 schools. Most importantly, it will begin to develop those who will truly be the next generation of school leaders, individuals who not only can lead these schools of the future, but can also conceive of and construct these schools. It will also offer components of this program as ways to reimagine professional development and in-service education for current school leaders. 70 years ago, the Woodrow Wilson Foundation was created because the United States urgently needed more college professors to teach all the returning GIs who were coming back from World War II with the GI Bill and the promise of a college education. Many thought that a rapid expansion of the nation's higher education system was not possible. The Woodrow Wilson Foundation helped make it possible. A decade ago, many observers questioned the feasibility of building a diverse pipeline of aspiring teachers looking to teach STEM and other subjects in high-need schools. They further questioned the ability to recruit candidates with strong content knowledge who would be willing to remain in high-need schools and in teaching for many years to come. Now, 1,000 teachers later, the Woodrow Wilson Foundation has some good answers to those questions. So today, when we look at ways to reimagine the preparation of school leaders, there's no question that we as a nation can. Rather, the question is whether we will. You and we are working to answer that question with a resounding yes. The work that brings you here today already shows that education leaders across the country are ready to transform the preparation of those entrusted with our schools and school districts. We have much to learn from you, and we hope for an ongoing discussion as we collaborate with school districts, universities, and prospective education leaders. It's a discussion that we look forward to having with the aspiring principals in the Woodrow Wilson MBA Fellowship for Education Leadership, with those principals working with our teaching fellows in states like Georgia, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, and Ohio. And really with every teacher and leader committed to improving our nation's educator preparation programs. It's one we will have as we share the lessons we've learned through the Woodrow Wilson Academy with universities and leader preparation programs across the country. So in closing, I just would like to tell you all that I'm really grateful for your commitment, your dedication, and the ways in which you've shared your success so far. You remind us that principals really do matter, and you show us how principals can and should and must be visionary leaders for education. Thank you.